Writers always say to start your story with a bang. Mine started with a To be fair, it wasn't mine. I'd opened my apartment door to grab my lunch delivery, and there stood my neighbor, Lennox, nude, smug, and wearing a robe that was losing the will to live. He gave me a polite nod like we were two businessmen acknowledging a merger, then strolled back inside as if this was a perfectly normal social interaction. Everyone's got a side hustle, right? Mine's crippling debt. He is jerking off for strangers on the internet. We'd been neighbors for about a year. Human aphrodisiac Lennox, the guy who somehow turned exhibitionism into a full-time career, and me, Elias Reyes, the guy who forgot what hope felt like after his second book deal tanked. He was the kind of man people stopped mid-sentence to stare at. Sculpted, sun-kissed, effortlessly charming. Like if Sin had a skincare routine. And me? I was the cynic next door, the guy who worked from home, minded his business, and definitely didn't notice that he moaned louder on Tuesdays. We were opposites. The exhibitionist and the misanthrope. The walking thirst trap. And the guy, too, broke to pay attention. 1 week later, it had been one of those nights. Me, my laptop, and a bottle of scotch. All three of us dying slow, miserable deaths. 2 hours. That's how long I'd been staring at a blank Word doc, waiting for inspiration to strike. Spoiler, it didn't. The scotch was running out faster than my career, and my editor wanted a chapter by morning. So, naturally, I did what any self-respecting, creatively bankrupt adult would do. I opened Kai's OnlyFans. Research, I told myself. Character study. Sure. And there it was. His newest upload, barely an hour old, already racking up 500,000 views. That's the kind of engagement I'd sell my soul, and maybe a kidney for. Curiosity won. I clicked. Immediately, I knew something was off. Kai's stuff was usually polished. Ring light, playlist, fan service down to a science. But this felt raw. The camera angle was crooked. The lighting uneven. You could hear muffled laughter, maybe a voice off screen. Then things got physical. I couldn't look away. Not because it was hot. Okay, partly because it was hot, but because something about it felt wrong. Familiar even. By the time the video ended, my stomach was in free fall. Kai collapsed forward on the bed, sweaty, grinning, out of breath. The other guy flopped beside him, face out of frame. Just a back, broad shoulders, a tiny scar near the left shoulder blade, and, oh, hell no, that tattoo. I froze. The room tilted. It wasn't just familiar. It was mine. Flashback, 3 months ago. Remember when I said I was immune to Kai's charms? Yeah, that was a lie. To be fair, I was doing great for a while. I'd successfully avoided eye contact with the man for months, which, if you've ever seen Kai Lennox shirtless, counts as Olympic-level restraint. Then came the day. Picture this. Me, mid-argument in the hallway with my editor on speakerphone. She's in full, you're a creative disappointment mode, yelling about deadlines and declining sales. I'm yelling back about artistic integrity and how my next draft just needs time to breathe. Translation: my book tanked. Hard. And that's when my door creaks open and out steps Kai. Robe, abs, and zero boundaries. "You okay, Hemingway?" he asks, all lazy grin and pity. I mutter something about publishers being parasites, and before I know it, he's saying, "You need a drink." Fast forward 3 hours, and we're at a dive bar with neon lights and bad decisions on tap. He tells me about his rough day, a sponsorship deal gone wrong, and we get competitive over who's the bigger failure. Spoiler, it's me. By midnight, we're laughing too hard to remember why we were miserable. By 1, we're kissing in the back of an Uber. By 2, we're in his apartment. Or mine. Honestly, geography stopped mattering somewhere between the second bottle of whiskey and the third round. It was and I can't believe I'm saying this, a phenomenal. The kind of sex that makes you question your life choices and your cardiovascular health. When the sun came up, reality hit like a hangover to the soul. I looked at Kai, gorgeous and smug, even half asleep, and knew I couldn't do it again. Not with him, not with that. Last night was something, I said, dragging a hand through my hair. He grinned. Something good? Something that shouldn't happen again, I said quickly. I can't. Relax. He cut in, yawning. I'm not proposing. We're good. And that was that. No drama, no follow-up. Just two people pretending they hadn't set fire to common sense for one night. Flashback, and 5 minutes later, present. There's mad, and then there's, I just found my own ass on the internet mad. I slammed my laptop shut so hard I think I scared my neighbors, grabbed my keys, and stomped down the hall before my brain could come up with a less suicidal idea. Kai's door. 2 sharp knocks, then 3 more for emphasis. It swung open mid-bang. There he was, hair a mess, sweatpants hanging low, face all casual like he hadn't just committed digital war crimes. Elias? He asked, all innocent. What the hell, Kai? I snapped. You posted that? He blinked. Posted what? Don't play dumb with me. I cut him off, heat rushing up my neck. The video. Your new viral masterpiece starring, I don't know, me? His jaw dropped. Wait, you saw? Yeah, genius. 500,000 other people have too. He scrubbed a hand over his face, groaning. Shit, Okay, listen, it wasn't like that. Oh, it exactly was, I shot back. You recorded us without asking, and then you posted it. You don't just accidentally upload your roommate's dick to the internet, Kai. I didn't know, he said, voice rising. That night we were gone, Eli. I found the footage months later, okay? I didn't even realize what it was until I watched it back. He hesitated, meeting my glare. And when I did, I made sure your face wasn't in it. I edited you out completely. I laughed, cold and bitter. Oh, good. Guess that makes it fine then. Look, I screwed up, he said quickly. I was in a rut. My subs were dropping. I hadn't filmed in weeks, and then I found that video. It felt real, raw. Everything my content hadn't been in months. I just hit upload. The anger in my chest wavered, just a little. I knew that desperation. The panic of fading relevance. The creative itch that turns into a scream when nothing works. Still, you should have asked me, I said quietly. Before you used it. Before you used me, Kai looked wrecked. You're right. We stood there in silence for a beat. 2 idiots who'd crossed too many lines to count. Keep your distance, I said finally. I get it. You're in a rough spot, but I need space. A lot of it. He nodded, eyes down. Yeah, I'll give you that. I turned to leave, heart still pounding, stomach knotted. And as his door clicked shut behind me, I wasn't sure if I was angrier at him or at myself for almost understanding. 1 month later. So, remember how I told Kai to keep his distance? Yeah, about that. Apparently, distance meant say hi every time we cross paths and show up at my door like a Jehovah's Witness with dimples. The guy had a guilt complex the size of his subscriber count, which, by the way, had tripled. The video, the one featuring my very tattooed back, was now sitting pretty at 2.5 million views. People called it raw, intimate, authentic. Meanwhile, I couldn't sell a paragraph to save my life. Case in point. My editor, Bob, is currently pacing my apartment like a bloodhound on espresso. You've had 6 weeks, Elias, he barked. 6. I gave you an extension out of pity, and you still hand me nothing. I pinched the bridge of my nose. Bob, I'm working on something, it's just... Oh, spare me the tortured artist bit, he snapped, waving his hands. You had one job, right? You think I enjoy defending your deadlines to people who think you're washed up? I stared at him. You said that like it's up for debate. End of the week, Reyes, he said, stabbing a finger at me. End of the week, or lose my number. And with that, he stormed out, door slamming so hard that a picture frame hit the floor. Perfect. Another day in paradise. I bent to pick up the frame, only to glance up and see Kai in the hallway, juggling grocery bags, and an expression that said yikes. "Everything okay?" he asked, hesitating by his door. I groaned. "I'm fine, Kai. Go home." He didn't. Of course. Instead, he set his bags down and leaned against my doorframe like he lived there. "I heard most of that," he said softly, "and I think I can help." I blinked at him. "Help? What? You gonna flash your abs at my manuscript until it behaves?" "I'm serious," he said. "You and I aren't that different, Eli." I gave him the kind of look reserved for people who say crypto is the future. He held up his hands. "Hear me out. I've read your stuff. You write feeling. Even your erotica. It's not smut. It's art. And heart. Which, shocker, is kinda what people want from me too." I frowned. "What you do and what I do are not the same thing," he nodded. "Totally. You use metaphors. I use lighting. But it's still storytelling. And I think we could help each other. Help each other how exactly?" Kai's grin was quick, careful. "You help me refine some of my concepts. Make them less, I don't know, porno, more cinematic. And in return, I help you find ideas again. My fans send in some wild requests, creative, detailed stuff. We could spin gold out of that." I raised an eyebrow. "And what's in it for you, Casanova?" He hesitated. "Honestly, I could use a fresh pair of eyes on my content. Just feedback. Peer review, not participation." I stared at him for a long moment. Every instinct screamed no. But then I thought about Bob's ultimatum. The empty Word document. My bank account. "Fine," I muttered. "We try it. But the second you say the words collab, I'm out." Kai's grin broke wide, bright enough to power the whole damn hallway. "Deal," he said. "I'll bring snacks." And just like that, I accidentally agreed to become a creative consultant for the guy who'd turned my sex life into a franchise. 5 days later. If someone had told me I'd write 2 full chapters in under a week, I'd have asked what kind of hallucinogen they were on and if they sold it in bulk. But there it was. 60 pages of fresh prose, hot off the caffeine-fueled press, sitting in my hands like proof that divine intervention occasionally takes the form of a horny roommate. I'd forgotten what it felt like to be excited about something I wrote. Terrified, yes. Depressed, absolutely. But excited? That was new. Kai hadn't lied about his DMs being a carnival of depravity. The man's inbox looked like a sociology thesis on human desire. Requests ranging from romantic candlelight roleplay to stepbrother tax evasion fantasy. Each one with price tags big enough to make morality negotiable. But hey, it was material. And somewhere between his chaos and my writer's block, we'd found a rhythm. He'd toss me wild fan prompts. I'd twist them into story structure, character arcs, something with emotional weight. In return, I gave him actual notes, lighting tips, framing. How to make scenes look less like Stepdad Caught Me Again and more like art house erotica. Weirdly enough, it was working. His comment section had started using words like cinematic and subtext. Subtext on OnlyFans. Miracles do happen. Still, I knew better than to start celebrating too soon. This whole creative rebirth meant jack if Bob didn't like the manuscript. So, with the kind of optimism that bordered on masochism, I attached the draft to an email and hit send. Then I flopped face first onto the bed, exhaled, and stared at the ceiling like it owed me rent. "Here's to hoping smut saves my career," I muttered. And honestly, for the first time in a long time, I didn't entirely hate the odds. 1 hour later, my phone rang. I almost didn't answer. I figured it was another spam call about car insurance I didn't own. But no, it was Bob. "Eli," he yelled before I could even say hello. "You son of a bitch, you've been holding out on me." I blinked. What?" "This draft. This book," he continued, sounding half drunk on adrenaline. "Where the hell have you been hiding this kind of writing? This is it. This is the good stuff. Raw, filthy, emotional. Hell, I almost cried. And I don't even like sex scenes." I sat there, completely still. "You're kidding." "Kid, if I'm kidding, I'll start wearing pants to Zoom calls." Pause. "I'm not kidding." I blinked again. "So you love it," he cut in. "Keep doing whatever voodoo you're doing. Don't change a damn thing. You finish this book, I'll sell it before you can say Pulitzer for porn." Then he hung up. Just like that. I stared at my phone, half expecting it to explode or laugh at me. It didn't. So I did the only logical thing. I bolted next door. Kai opened the door mid-protein shake. Hair a mess. Wearing nothing but gym shorts and self-confidence. "What's up?" "He loved it," I blurted. "Bob, the book." He said it's gold. Kai's eyes went wide. Then his face split into a grin so bright it should have come with a warning label. "No shit." "No shit." He whooped, grabbed me by the shoulders, and shook me like I'd just won the lottery. "Drinks on me tonight," he declared. "Generous," I said dryly. "Considering you don't actually pay rent on time." "Exactly," he said. "All my money goes into experiences, Reyes. And tonight, the experience is you trying not to smile." I rolled my eyes, but the truth was, I couldn't stop. 1 month later, somehow 30 days had passed, and I'd spent most of them with Kai Lennox. It wasn't supposed to happen like that. The arrangement was simple. I help him refine his content. He helps me dig my way out of writer's block. Strictly professional. Mutually beneficial. Zero emotional investment. Except now, I couldn't remember the last day I hadn't seen him. It started small. Watching a series for research, arguing over dialogue, pacing, and camera angles. Then came the late-night edit sessions. Him adjusting lighting and sound. Me tightening paragraphs and deleting adverbs like a man. Possessed. At first, I told myself it was all work, productive, necessary. But somewhere between the caffeine runs and the quiet 2 a.m. rewrites, I started looking forward to it. To him. The way he'd grin whenever a scene finally clicked. The way he'd sprawl across my couch mid-edit, muttering to himself while I pretended not to stare. I didn't know when it happened, when helping out turned into hanging out. But by the time the month mark rolled around, I'd stopped pretending I minded. 1 week later, turns out lightning does, in fact, strike twice. I'd just sent another chunk of the manuscript to my editor, and I was on a high, so naturally when Kai suggested drinks, I said yes. It started simple. Cheap whiskey. Loud bar. The kind of place where the seats stick to your jeans and the lighting hides bad decisions. But somewhere between the third round and the walk home, we stopped bullshitting and actually started talking. Turns out Kai wasn't just a pretty face with a premium subscription model. He'd dropped out of film school. Said he ran away from home at 19, chasing the kind of dream that burns bright until rent shows up. OnlyFans wasn't the plan, he told me. Voice soft, eyes on the pavement. But it paid the bills. And honestly, I kind of like making people feel something. Even if it's not exactly Sundance material. I laughed, but not at him. At the honesty of it. Because I got it. I told him about me. About how I'd been writing since I could hold a pencil. How everyone told me I was going to make it big. The next great novelist or whatever. Then New York happened. And rent. And reality. Turns out talent doesn't pay in exposure or promise. He laughed too, said something about how the city humbles you faster than heartbreak. And yeah, he wasn't wrong. By the time we made it back to our building, the air between us felt charged and suspiciously familiar. He hesitated at his door, then said, "I've got an old bottle upstairs." Half-decent stuff. "You in?" I should have said no, I didn't. One drink turned into two, then three. Somewhere in the middle of a story about his first short film, he looked at me. Really looked. And before I knew it, we were kissing. It wasn't like last time. There was no haze of liquor or grief to hide behind. It was slower, certain, real. Kai pulled back first, eyes wide, voice low. "Shit, Eli. I shouldn't have." I stopped him. "It's okay." And then I kissed him back. Harder, deeper, this time. Until we were both breathless, the bottle forgotten, and the night blurred into something that felt dangerous and inevitable all at once. 2 weeks later, against my better judgment, and I had plenty of it, sex with Kai had become routine. A dangerous, addictive kind of routine. We didn't talk about it. Didn't label it. Didn't analyze it to death like adults with self-awareness might have done. It was just there. A secret orbit we kept falling into over and over. He'd knock on my door at midnight with some flimsy excuse. I'd pretend to complain, and then I'd let him in. And honestly, I liked it that way. The not talking. The not defining. The quiet pretending that it didn't mean anything. At least, I thought he did too. Then came Friday night. We'd both spent the day neck-deep in work. Me editing another chapter. Him filming something he swore was classy for once. When we finally grabbed dinner, it was easy. Comfortable. He made me laugh. I forgot for a while that this was supposed to be temporary. But then, walking home, under that obnoxiously romantic glow of streetlights, he said it. "Eli," he started, a little hesitant. "What if we made this official?" I stopped walking. My brain blanked so hard I could practically hear the Windows error sound. "Official," I repeated, because clearly words had abandoned me. He shoved his hands in his pockets, looking suddenly unsure in a way I'd never seen before. "Yeah, you know, like us. I like this. You. And maybe it doesn't have to be." I cut in, then immediately regretted it. "Kai, I don't know." And I didn't. Because the truth was, I liked him. Too much. Which was exactly why it terrified the hell out of me. He caught the hesitation. His smile faltered, eyes flicking away. "Hey, don't worry about it," he said quickly, forcing a laugh that didn't reach his eyes. It was stupid. Forget I said anything, Kai. But he was already walking ahead, hands shoved deeper in his jacket, leaving me there on the sidewalk, staring after him, wondering when something that felt so good started to feel so goddamn complicated. 1 week later, things had soured. Not in a dramatic screaming through the halls kind of way. More like milk left out just long enough to taste wrong. I didn't go over to Kai's place as much anymore. No late night edits, no lazy breakfast that turned into something else. We still saw each other. Still exchanged small talk in the hallway like nothing had changed. But it wasn't the same. It was polite now. Careful. The kind of careful that hurts worse than anger. And my writing? Yeah, that tanked right along with it. It had only been a few days, but I could feel it. The doubt creeping in like mold. Every line I wrote felt off, forced. Like I'd forgotten what it was supposed to sound like when something was alive. Kai, to his credit, didn't make it harder. He still smiled, still checked in, still acted like everything was fine. But that was the worst part. The trying. The quiet effort to keep things normal when they clearly weren't. And I hated that I'd done this. Because I did like him. More than I'd ever meant to. I liked the stupid jokes, the soft touches, the way he somehow made my chaotic life feel less impossible. But I didn't know how to fix it without one of us ending up bleeding. So I did what I always did when something scared me. I kept my distance and prayed he wouldn't stop waiting for me to come back. 1 month later, I didn't notice it right away. The silence. Kai had stopped posting. No teasers, no previews, no Thirst Trap Thursdays, just nothing. A month and a half of digital radio silence, which, in Kai time, was basically a decade. We'd gotten back to something resembling cordial. Coffee runs, takeout on the couch, small talk between two people who definitely hadn't complicated the hell out of their friendship. So, yeah, I noticed. I just didn't ask. If he wanted to tell me, he would. Turns out he did, just not the way I expected. It was late, quiet. Dinner plate still in the sink when he said it like he was announcing the weather. "I'm moving out." I blinked. What? That small, apologetic smile, the one that always meant he'd already made up his mind. "I'm starting a new chapter." My stomach sank. A new chapter as in? "I quit OnlyFans," he said. It took a second for my brain to catch up. "You what?" "Yeah," he said casually, leaning on the counter like this wasn't DEFCON 1. "I'm going back to film school." I stared at him. This was the same guy who'd built an empire out of confidence and a ring light. "You're serious?" He nodded. "You can't just, you love what you do. Can't you do both?" Kai shrugged, raking a hand through his hair. "I don't want distractions. If I'm doing this, I'm doing it right." And there it was. Distractions. I knew exactly what that meant. I wanted to ask about us. About me. About whatever the hell this was turning into before we broke it. But I didn't, because saying it would make me the selfish one. So I just nodded. "Right. Film school. That's huge." He smiled again, softer. "Don't worry. I'm not leaving yet. I'll stick around until your book's done. Then I'll go." And I just stood there, heart in my throat. Pretending that didn't sound like a countdown I didn't want to reach 0. 3 days later. 3 days later, I couldn't sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw it. Kai's apartment, stripped bare. The empty shelves, the blank walls. The ghost of his laughter still echoes through the drywall like some cruel, sentimental haunting. And the worst part? It wasn't just a dream anymore. He'd started packing for real. Boxes stacked by the door. Furniture listed for pickup. His bed frame is gone. Every day, the place looked a little less his and a little more like a goodbye. Meanwhile, my book, the one thing I'd been killing myself over for months, was finally in its last stages. One more edit, one final pass, and I could call it done. I should have been thrilled. Instead, I was losing my goddamn mind, because somewhere between all the chapters, the late nights, the fake boundaries, and the too real feelings, I'd gone and done it. I'd fallen for him. And now, with 3 days left on his unofficial countdown, I was panicking like a man who'd only just realized how badly he'd screwed up. I liked him. Not liked, as in tolerated or enjoyed hanging out with. Liked him. The kind of stupid, aching, gut-twisting way that makes you want to say something, do something, anything, before it's too late. But I didn't. Because if there's one thing I'm consistent at, it's realizing my feelings exactly 3 acts too late. The next day. The next morning, the sun hadn't even fully decided if it wanted to exist yet when Kai lugged the last of his bags down to the curb. I was already in the car, hands tight on the steering wheel, pretending this was just another errand, just another drive. But it wasn't. He tossed his duffel into the back seat and climbed in beside me with that easy smile of his, the kind that always managed to make goodbyes harder. "You didn't have to do this, you know," he said, buckling up. "Yeah, I did," I said. "You've done enough for me. The least I can do is make sure you actually get there before you change your mind," he grinned. "So basically, you're my getaway driver. More like your emotional support chauffeur." We hit the road, the highway unfurling in that golden early light. It wasn't a long drive, but it felt like something bigger. The kind of in-between space where the world goes quiet and things finally make sense. He controlled the music naturally, a mix of bad pop and old rock that shouldn't have worked but somehow did. Between songs, we talked about nothing and everything. His nerves about starting over, my editor hounding me for a title, the absurdity of gas prices. It felt easy, like before, like home. And the whole time I kept thinking, this is what I want. By the time we pulled up to the small campus dorm complex, the sun was high and my chest was tight. We got out, unloaded his stuff, laughed at something stupid. Anything to fill the space where words failed. Then came the part I'd been dreading. He turned to face me, hands shoved in his pockets, smile soft but sad. "Guess this is it, huh?" "Guess so," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. He stepped forward and pulled me into a hug. Long, grounding, the kind that made it impossible to breathe right. "Thank you," he murmured. "For what?" I managed. "For everything." That was it. That's when I cracked. I laughed once, a short, pathetic sound, and realized I was crying. He didn't say anything about it, just wiped a thumb under my eye and smiled like I'd given him a gift instead of proof I was falling apart. He turned to leave, slinging his bag over his shoulder, and I watched him make it halfway across the lot before the words tore out of me. "Kai!" He stopped, turned. "I'll be waiting," I called, voice rough. "Weekends, remember? You promised." His grin broke through like sunlight after rain. He raised a hand in a mock salute. "Bet on it," he shouted back, and then he was gone. Walking toward a new chapter while I stood there in the parking lot, heart cracked wide open, knowing I'd finally found mine. Conclusion. By the time fall rolled around, I'd learned something important about long-distance promises. They sound way easier in parking lots. Kai couldn't make it back every weekend. Life happened. Film school happened. Deadlines. Projects. Exhaustion. All the things that came with starting over. But he tried. Hell, he really tried. And every time he did show up, suitcase in one hand, that stupid grin in the other, it felt like the world snapped back into place for a little while. I asked him out the following week. No games, no overthinking, just me, awkward as hell, blurting, "So, want to make this official?" And thankfully, he said yes. The months after that blurred together in the best way. Late night calls, weekend trips, the kind of support that made the bad days easier and the good ones unreal. Then, almost out of nowhere, it happened. My book, the one I thought would never see daylight, hit the shelves. And somehow it didn't just sell, it blew up. A bestseller. My name is on the damn list. I think I reread the headline 12 times before it sank in. Bob, my perpetually grumpy, caffeine-dependent editor, actually cried. Real tears. The man who once yelled at me for wasting paper hugged me like I just cured literature itself. And me? I just stood there, staring at my name in print, thinking about how none of it would have happened without a loud, shameless, beautiful disaster named Kai Lennox kicking down my walls, figuratively and emotionally. I used to think I needed to write something that mattered. Turns out, I just needed to live it first. The end. Turns out my muse wasn't a whiskey bottle or divine inspiration. It was my half-naked ex-roommate. Life's funny that way. What about you? Ever fallen for your bad idea? Thanks for watching. Subscribe to become part of our Rainbow Force, and consider joining our membership for early access and exclusive content. Stay wholesome.